wanna be round a champion, a champion. This is me, I still on it, 'cause you all wanna be loved. Yeah, you all wanna be loved.
Hey, guys and gals. Welcome back to the Crimson Dynasty. For those of you who are new here, we really appreciate your support. And for those who have been here before, we appreciate you coming back and being active and just engaging with us. The Crimson Dynasty is the sister channel of the Bama Standard. And so what we do on this show in particular, we just like to do a recap of our previous game and then also talk about basically like projections and future outlook. I like to break down the opponent and work with Coach Smook on that and just kind of highlight certain things that we are doing pretty well and then things that we should do a little better. And so we have a really hot show tonight. But before I get started, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Workspace Solutions. So if your business is in need of a digital presence or even a full-fledged marketing team, be sure to contact them. You can Google them, you can look at them online and just see if maybe they have something that you're in need of, and feel free to reach out to them directly. And so like I mentioned, we do have a familiar face here, Coach Smook. A lot of y'all know him as Coach Smook. We went hard last week, but I think this show we got some hot stuff to talk about. We just gonna have to. We're going to have to let him have it. But the first thing that I wanted to kind of jump into is just do a recap of our game against Tennessee. Now, I know there's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot that's already been said, but is there anything that stood out to you, Coach Smook, and anything that you want to highlight, and then anything that you may want to call like a low light that we need to improve on?
Let's start with the low light, because that's usually what you end up dealing with in like life. You don't come out bright, you know what I'm saying? So the low light was just the start. I didn't like the slow start. Yes. And I pointed out some small things that, small details. If things would have happened, it wouldn't have been a slow start. Mm-hmm. You look at the first drive, the first offensive drive, with McClellan, it was 3rd and 3. He runs into the back of Booker, and that stops him, a yard short. You make the right lane, you might get 6-7 extra yards, including the first down, including extending the drive, including exposing that Tennessee defense even early in the game. But they ended up catching it on and turning it on in the middle of the second quarter. But the highlight of the game was just the resiliency of this whole team, from the coaches to the players to the staff. I mean, the trainers on the sideline. It was like a different energy on the sideline, and not only in the sideline, but a bright spot was this crowd, man, to cause those 2 false start penalties or this 2 pre-snap infractions at the end of the game, to have a role in that was big. So those are my main takeaways from it, without getting into any of the details. Just the overall outcome was what we expected, and this team just continues to grow.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that, that word growth, I mean, that's really what you want to see. I know every weekend we have, people they'll have negative things to say. And I think that just comes with the game itself. But I do think that that growth factor, that is something that we want to see. And we want to see that week to week. Right. I think about that slow start that we had, and I'm just like, this isn't, maybe we were still trying to find ourselves, get a rhythm, kind of get a feel for what Tennessee was doing. I mean, the way that they were able to drive that ball down the field early on, I mean, it was just like, I'm like, what is this? And then we were playing them at home, and so it didn't look that great to me at first. I do feel like the defense, they played pretty well throughout the entire game, actually, and they were very dominant in the second half. But I do think that, those slow starts, we really want to get away from that. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't expect to always come back like that, like 27 unanswered points. That's not something that you can really bank on. And so I really don't think that it's good that we put ourselves in a situation to where we have to play from behind all the time, because we're lucky that didn't bite us in the butt, and so I think for me, that's the biggest thing, is we want to score early, and I think that's everyone's goal, but we have to set it up to where that can actually happen. And I think that starts with the play calling. I think that Tommy Rees, he's had some struggles, and I think a part of that maybe comes from just him coming from Notre Dame and just kind of used to different just opponents that they play. And I think because of that, you do coach a little differently. And so coming into the SEC, I mean, I think he knew that would be a challenge, But I think I hope that, the second half really helped Tommy Rees and help kind of build his confidence as far as the play calling. I saw someone say online, they were like, I wonder if, someone else was actually calling the plays in the second half, because it was almost like night and day difference from the first half. So I don't know. I think we do have a lot to be proud of, a lot to expect, especially against LSU coming up in another 2 weeks. And so I do want to know, like, what would you highlight from our game against Tennessee? What were the positives that stood out to you?
To piggyback off of what you were saying with Tommy Rees and the play calling, I saw a switch turn on once we got the jet sweep implemented, and he saw how easily that affected their linebackers. And he implemented that from that jet sweep on out. I think it was maybe two, and Justin's backstage, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 actual design run plays where there was no pre-snap motion the rest of the game. And that jet sweep happened in the second quarter. So I think he figured it out, but I don't think it was necessarily he's not used to play calling. I think Tommy Rees was trying to do things that they're just not ready for early in the season, and that this team was just not ready for it. And the like we've been talking about, sis, is just one of those things where progression and growth is a must if you want guys to reach their capability, and the ability to develop guys is how coaches get judged. And right now, if we was to judge Tommy Rees on how he's allowing Jalen Milroe to develop and how Jalen Milroe is developing under this play calling style, I think next year, if Milroe decides to come back, if he doesn't have like a freakish season to end this year, he's going to come back and just like blow the college football world away, because him and Tommy Rees have another year under their belt, kind of like Tua and Lane the second year that he was the starter. So, but from this game, this running back room is just solid. I know we didn't get to see Justice. I know we didn't get to see Jam get big carries, but Jam got in and made a solid, slowed up a guy in the blitz. Roydell came in and ran hard. Jace, another 100-yard game, with the workload. Anytime Jace has 16 or more carries, he touches that 100-yard mark. So Tommy Rees better understand that. And then the wide receivers, they're just awesome, man. This wide receiver group, not the most flashiest, but this Burton kid, Jermaine Burton, I don't even want to call him Jermaine Burton. I think we're gonna call him Jay Beezy from now on. He OGing out there, like he out there dogging cats and just leading with the energy and the example of how to perform on the field. Makes mistakes, picks himself back up, makes the next play. That's what you want to see with this team on the offense side. Defensively, I don't have no complaints. I love everything about the defense, even the mismatch. If you go back and watch that, that's about as good as coverage you're gonna get with a defensive end / outside linebacker on a true slot wide receiver running. I think Squirrel runs a 4-4. So I don't have no complaints about the defense. I love that Kevin Steele is back, holding that spot for Jeremy Pruitt in a few years or whenever it happens. But yeah, I love this right now.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that, especially, our run game. I know early on Tennessee was kind of able to stop it a little bit, but I'm glad that we were able to, do more with our legs out there, even Jalen. But I do think that, the defense, like to me, they just get better and better. And I think that it's week after week, it just builds their confidence even more, so I definitely, and it's honestly, if we were to sit here and call the different names of the players, we'd be sitting here all night, because really all of them I felt did their job. I think on the offense as well, for the most part, especially the second half. And so, you mentioned the wide receivers, particularly Jermaine Burton and Isaiah Bonds. Isaiah Bonds, he played pretty well. I was proud of him, Isaiah Bond, without the S. I'm proud of him. I'm proud of how he stepped up, even as a true freshman. And we've been saying since the beginning of the season that it's going to be these freshmen that are going to take us to the national championship. I mean, we look at Kendrick Law. He got the ball, I think, in the second quarter. It was good to see that. Now, I didn't quite understand why CJ Dupree, I think his first reception wasn't until the third quarter, and I didn't quite understand that, because I felt like we could have utilized, our tight ends a little more, but I do know that he was, coming off of an injury. He had gotten banged up a little bit against Arkansas. So maybe that's why. I do hope that we see him more in the game against LSU, but we'll talk about that, later on. So I think the question now is, and we've been seeing this come up, I think the question now is that dominant Alabama that we know, is it back? Like, I'm going to say yes. What do you think?
I'm going to say yes, because of the way we ended that game. And not just ended it, but we really controlled the second quarter, and I'm looking at the clock now, from the 12-16 mark to the end of the game, we really controlled that game. They ended up scoring a late score before the half, which was really, that turnover wasn't really on Milroe. It was just a freakish play with hitting off of Burton's shoulder pad. He had the position. It just, the sun, I hear some people say the sun was in his eye. So those plays like that, I could live with those happening. But then to see how they turn around and respond, when you have a team that can respond like that, being down by 13, I think that was the largest deficit. We had a 13-point deficit. That was the largest deficit. And to come out and then to flip the game like that in a matter of I think it was a total of 16 total plays. We ended up putting up 27 points. That's crazy. That you don't see that. You don't see that from a team that's struggling or lost their swag. This can be a dominant team. I'm not going to say that back. They can be a dominant team if they perform like they did from that 12-minute mark in the second quarter to the finish of that game. Even how they performed against Mississippi State in the first half and Ole Miss in the second half and against Texas in the second quarter. They've shown that they could be dominant. It's time to put it together for 4 quarters, and that's when we could give them that dominant title back. That's just my personal opinion.
I feel you. And it kind of goes to what Tyler Booker said last week when he spoke with Paul Feinbaum, when he said that we've yet to play a full 4 quarters. We've yet to do that. And so I think if you take that our second half against Tennessee, you play that a full 4 quarters, we beating everybody. I don't care. We line them up at that point, Ohio State, Georgia, everybody. So that just kind of boils down to consistency. I think that, that was I would say that was a game changer, particularly for Tommy Rees, to just see that all along we had it. It's just a matter of implementing it and knowing when to implement it. I do think that he needs to be quicker with making, certain decisions, making certain changes. I don't think that you can really lose 2 quarters and then, just kind of hope that you can make up for it. You have to be able to make those quick adjustments, which means that you have to be able to quickly understand what the defense is doing so that you can make those adjustments. So, I mean, I personally think, I still compare this team to our 2015 team, and I'll get more into that later, but just kind of looking at how our season went in that 2015, just that 2015 season where we lost early. I think we dropped out of the top 10, and it was around this same time, I think week 8 or 9, when we crept back up in the top 10. So there's a lot of similarities. I think even with the team just kind of finding their identity, there are some similarities there with the 2015, and we saw what happened with that. So, I mean, I personally, I know that there are some things to work on. I'm still hopeful. I think we have it. I think that it was just a matter of, us having that confidence and everyone buying into it. You got to have everyone on one accord there. But I guess, we're looking at this bye week that we have this week. And I think Michigan also has a bye week this week as well. And we'll get into that too, because there are some things that I want to discuss there. But just considering, the bye week coming off the dominant win that we had against Tennessee, what do you feel like, we have LSU coming up. LSU already has 2 losses. They lost against Florida State and Ole Miss. So what do you feel like our strategies should be specifically this week?
I think offensively, I usually try to attack the offense because I think Kevin Steele and his defensive staff is just unmatched right now. Maybe Georgia has the same type of caliber defensive staff. I mean, on-field coaches, analysts. I mean, they have a plethora of guys. Kirby cool with everybody, so he got guys in that staff. But Coach Saban and his staff, there's such a good mixture of young, old, intermediate. There's a good contrast of styles to keep everything unbiased and balanced in the play calling style. This offensive side, I feel like they're just getting used to Tommy Rees. And Tommy Rees is, like somebody said, I think Bobby Sprinkle said it in the chat, I think he's just getting used to calling plays. So having a bye week, you get to watch so much film and see what your players look like in comfortable situations rather than trying to fix uncomfortable situations. And now you have a good body of work to start scripting comfortable first drive. This is the 17 plays that we love. Milroe, out of the 17 plays that we love, pick your first 6 plays, and this is how we're going to try to scheme against whatever front they bring out. Just know these are the only 6 plays you have for that first drive. Whatever the front is, you're going to have to understand how to adjust this. And that's the growth that we should work on in this bye week. The mental reps are going to count so much because we're at home. You're not having to worry about traveling a day early, leaving a day early, and missing out on extra sessions and
Mhm.
extra field work, whatever it is, treatment. It's all, set up for us to be successful. This team is peaking right now. Now, this defense and Kevin Steele is more of a thing where whoever gets the advantage early, and I mean like our defense versus their offense, and I'm talking about getting guys rattled out of place. I don't see the composure there for LSU. I don't. They folded against Florida State, and they also folded against Ole Miss. I feel like if we could provide any sense of pressure like we did against Ole Miss, or even against Texas A&M, the type of pressure we put on Max Johnson, if we could get that type of pressure on Jaden Daniels and wrap him up and get him down when we get in the backfield, because we will get in the backfield, this game could get ugly early for LSU and every team moving forward. Every team moving forward is going to catch them hands too. So.
Oh, they will. They will. And then we have a comment too if you want to address that, and then I'll give my perspective.
Okay. PFF scores for Dupree, Knee Black, and Oots were only 59, 40, 49.8, 49.5. You're looking at that like it's grade school grades. Those are actually solid grades for the amount of snaps that they're rotating, the amount of attempts that they're getting, the amount of blocking assignments. Those are actual solid scores. And I'm pretty sure that 49.5 is probably the only one that's like colored yellow orange on those PFF scores. That 59 is probably like a yellow green, and that same with that 49 probably a solid yellow. So that's not bad when you look at the type of defense. We just played a top 10 ranked defense statistically. So I mean, I'm good with those 50s and 60s across the front,
Yeah. Yep. I agree. And not even just Tennessee, but even when we played Texas A&M, I mean, they arguably had the best defensive line in the country. So I think when you put everything in perspective, those numbers don't look as bad as they are. But thanks for the comment though. I mean, that's definitely something at least worth pointing out. Now, I'll say as far as the bye week strategy from my perspective, one thing that, I think is worth noting is the fact that Tommy Rees, he played with Brian Kelly back at Notre Dame. So Brian Kelly, of course, is the head coach at LSU now. And I think that, Brian Kelly is going to go in with some type of, air about himself, thinking that maybe he has an advantage because he, knows Tommy Rees. But I don't think it's going to work out the way that he thinks it will. I think now that, Tommy Rees, has gotten more games under his belt at Alabama, he probably feels a little more comfortable. And I think that if he can get creative, because that's been to me, that's the key component that's been missing week after week. It's just that creativity, I think that's going to be a huge factor. So I think that's one thing to note. It's just the fact that, we are playing against, Brian Kelly, and, there may be something there in that regard, but I still think that we're gonna have the advantage. Now, I will say that there are 2 losses. So they lost to LSU, of course, their first game. It was a home game, but then they lost to Ole Miss at Ole Miss. Now, LSU allowed Ole Miss to score 55 points to them. And I think Ole Miss maybe only won by like 6 points. They didn't beat them by a lot, but they still allow Ole Miss to score 55 points on them. Now, I know Ole Miss has, some pretty good running backs, receivers. I think Ulysses, Quinshawn Junk. So they have some good players, but look at what we did. They didn't score all those points on us, so I think they had over 700 yards total, Ole Miss at the end of the game, like 300 rushing, almost 400 in the air. So to me, they had a very solid game and a solid game plan as well. In terms of Ole Miss being able to beat LSU, one thing that I noticed when you look at Florida State and Ole Miss, they ran the ball quite a lot against LSU, and I think that's going to be something that we're going to have to do. We're going to have to be able to run against LSU, which means that our O-line, we need to keep working on strengthening them. I do think that we're going to have Caden Proctor out there. I do think, of course, Tyler Booker, Seth, I still want to see some improvement, because those low snaps, like we can't afford for that to keep happening. I do think that we'll see Jaden Roberts, of course, and then JC Latham. So, just that O-line, what I would do, I would maybe have maybe like Robbie Ooze or, Miles Kisman, someone on that left side to help Caden Proctor. But I definitely think that it's a game where we may see Jam Miller and Justice Haynes out there, pretty frequently. I just think that we're going to have to be able to run. Jalen Milroe is going to have to use his legs. And I think that, we may be able to get some downfield passes, but I do think that he's going to have to get comfortable making those shorter passes too, those 10 to 15-yard passes. He's going to have to get comfortable with that because it does seem like he's been somewhat avoiding those for whatever reason. But I do want to see him get a little more comfortable there. So then in terms of our defense, I know that we can say, well, we're happy with what we're seeing with our defense, but of course there's always opportunities for improvement. So with our defense, what do you think is going to be the main thing with, stopping LSU and it's particularly Jaden Daniels? I mean, he's been improving week after week.
Well, I was just looking at the stats. Ole Miss was able to get 4 sacks against against LSU. Wait, I want to go make sure I read that right. I want to say Ole Miss had 4 sacks against LSU. Yep. Let me see. No, actually, Ole Miss wasn't able to get to Jaden Daniels. So of course, getting pressure on him, but he struggled in their second half. He started the first half, I think, 11-for-11 in that game against Ole Miss. And then they just kind of started to get Pete Golden was being Pete Golden. The main thing is we don't have a Pete Golden, chat. That I was trying my best to try to dress this up. Like I was struggling so hard to find some stats because honestly, as great as Jaden Daniels is and this offense can be explosive, I'm looking at the averages of everything. This is just no defense being played. Every receiver on LSU's offense that scored that game or had a reception, every reception was an average of 10 plus yards.
Yeah.
They had one guy, he had a 42-yarder. Another guy had 2 catches for 51 yards, to average of 25. Brian Thomas Jr. had 50. He was averaging 15 yards a catch for 124. So like I don't see that happening. Who's been able to do that? Quinn Ewers and that explosive offense in Texas couldn't catch a green. You want to say a green Alabama defense early in the season? They couldn't even get our defensive backs like that. Yeah. And I honestly believe Kevin Steele is going to trust these guys to walk down and play a little bit more aggressive man, be a little bit more physical, because we saw Arnold backing off a lot, giving a lot of cushion last game. That's not his suit. That's not his suit. Get Arnold in the guy's grill and just let him be physical. He has the length to make up and keep that space and stay in phase. He has the speed to recover. I mean, let them guys walk up and get in phase early and get physical so they could turn their head around quick. I think that's the problem with our DBs. I saw somebody else say something about the DBs not turning their heads around. Anytime you playing off coverage, you spending too much time trying to decipher what's happening in them first three to 5 steps. It's kind of hard. You working on him, and by the time they in their 3rd or 5th step, if it's coming out quick, it's already out. It don't matter if it's a quick fade or whatever. It's already out. So my thing is let them guys walk up and play early, jam on them, start getting that head turned around early, getting a good feel on the guy early in the route. I think that works best to our suit. I do got a question for you, Cici. Since we're on the defense, starting linebacker, inside linebacker, we've been watching this rotation. We know Deontay Lawson is the guy. We know he's the captain. He's the leader inside. Going into this game against LSU, who are you starting and why? And I'm going to give you Blackshire in this mix, but you got Blackshire, you got Blackshire, Marshall, and Campbell. Who's starting next to Deontay Lawson and why?
Well, it's definitely, I'm not trying to say this in a bad way, but it's definitely not Kendrick Blackshire. He does need more reps, but I think that won't necessarily happen against LSU. Honestly, man, like Trez Marshall, he's that guy. But Jihaad Campbell, you need guys. Bruh, like you need guys like that. Like I'm not trying to take anything away from Trez March. And I think that this is a good position to be in as a team where it's literally like it's a toss up. I mean, I'm cool either way. But honestly, I would like to see Jihaad Campbell go out there. I'd like to see him start.
Me too. And my thing is if you got Campbell, he's faster. His coverage ability is better. His awareness is a lot better than Marshall. For him to be a second-year guy, Marshall is just a physical specimen that is really – he misses too many – his angles are horrible, and he doesn't have the speed to recover like Campbell when he takes a bad angle. Campbell could take a bad angle and recover. We saw that, I think, against Ole Miss when he could have stopped the little motion quick out where he got kind of crossed up in coverage. But Campbell gives us a different dynamic that we haven't seen, and we was talking about this last night. You talking about Rashawn Evans and
Yeah.
that group. I think it was Ragland next to Evans. Who was it, Justin? I forget. Rashawn Evans and I forget. But I think even before them, Evans was the third guy, and they had two guys in front of Evans the year before. Mac Wilson, Rashawn Evans, and whoever else was the guy during that group. That was 2015, I believe.
You said
So,
Rashawn Evans.
Yeah, Rashawn Evans. I mean, it's just
Hamilton.
Sean Deion Hamilton. That's the other one. So I mean, it's guys like that, and that's who Campbell gives me that feel of, like that type of linebacker.
Yeah. I agree. Like I said, man, that this is a good position to be in. I'm glad that, the fan base got to see Jihaad Campbell. I mean, honestly, just that aggression that he has, the way that he plays. I mean, that's literally what you want. I mean, you can't sit up there and call yourself a dominant team with the type of, I guess, standard or reputation that Bama has had over all these years without having a player like him. So honestly, I would start Jihaad Campbell, and I would just, kind of see how he does out there. And I mean, just have about there. I don't think we can go wrong. Now, I will say from a defensive perspective, our bye week strategy, just continue being physical. Like you said, particularly our defensive backs, our secondary, I do want to see us be a little more physical, for sure, because Jaden Daniels, I mean, give him time, and he's throwing all the way. He gonna throw to Louisiana if we let him. So we have to be able to. We need to be able to stop him, which is going to be our line. But we also need to be able to stop those passes. We need to cover their receivers. I don't see them scoring 40-ish points on us. That's definitely not going to happen like they did against Ole Miss. But we'll get into that later too. But I do want to know, okay, so we're at this point now in the season, and there are certain players that we may have had certain expectations to see, them step up, or, certain guys, but then there are certain ones that maybe we didn't talk about, like Jihaad Campbell, for example. And you didn't really hear a lot of people mention him a lot, early on into the season, but look at him now. And so are there certain players, and we'll start with the offense, but are there certain players that you feel like their time is now and they need to go ahead and step up? And then we'll move on to the defense.
As far as like stepping up, or they might get passed by and they won't be implemented as much. And you mean
they already pretty much passed. But I'm like, who do you want to see step up? The ones that maybe we talked about a lot at the start of the season. Maybe we had high expectations, and they're getting out there, but they're not really doing a whole lot.
I can't really say step up because it's not on him to get him the ball.
Yeah,
but I want. And guys, fans, please don't beat me up, because this is like my golden child of the team. They don't speak a lot on him, but this is my golden child. I feel like he does everything right. Practice, preparation, performance on field, off field. As a young man, I was able to talk to him briefly, but Kobe Prentice, not step up, but I would love to see him get more opportunities to make plays, because that touchdown pass against was that against Ole Miss? Or Mississippi, who we played last week?
Or was it Arkansas? It was homecoming, Arkansas.
Yeah. I mean, that's the type of stuff we got to use.
Yeah.
Prentice and Law. And so Prentice, and then I want to see Jace just be a little bit more patient early. That's my boy. I not that he needs to step up, but be patient, more patient earlier in the game. Be patient, because the holes are there. Keep your head up, square your shoulders, and he does that. I mean, I think he's always looking for that first big hit. He'll tell you that he's ready to get that first hit out the way, and then he's good. So, and then offensive line, everybody across the offensive line could just continue to step up. If we have to deal with a Delacorte situation, I hope he's up enough to where he can fill in. And wide receivers, I mean, I see strong routes. I don't see guys giving up on routes as much as last year. It's a tricky thing with these wide receivers. You just don't know what they're capable of because they haven't really had the opportunity. So if I had to go on the offense side, just give up. Oh, Tommy Rees, you better step it up.
Yeah.
That play caller better be on point. You have the answers, brother. Pre-snap motion is the answer. That's literally the answer. I don't care what nobody says. Tommy Rees, this offense needs pre-snap motion. 67 snaps a game. I don't care if we in the freaking power. You better pre-snap motion the offensive lineman to the sideline and back. I want some pre-snap motion, Tommy.
Yeah. No, that's actually a good one. He's the one offensively that needs to step up. That's good. I would have to go with Tommy Rees as well. But I also want to see more from Malik Benson. He's a guy who, we heard all the rev and rave about him coming out of JUCO. And, I think that he's more than capable. But like you mentioned, it's not necessarily anything on his side. It's more so maybe the play calling or them just not really working him into the schemes. So I would like to see, and maybe there's a reason why. I don't know. We talk about just the quarterbacks having chemistry with certain guys. And so it makes me wonder if maybe that's kind of lacking. I don't know. But I would like to see Malik Benson a little more. I do think that he's one of those guys who, when we get him fired up, he's gonna be gone. He is gonna be gone. So I really want to see more from Malik Benson. I've seen Ja'Cory Brooks out there here and there. I still want to see more from him too. And I don't know if it's just like I said, the play calling or them just not really, working him into the schemes. But I feel like he's the guy that, we've relied on him in the past. Maybe he has a couple drops here and there, but going all the way back to 2021 when we played Auburn, for example, when we had Bryce. There are certain guys who I think, if we give them the opportunity, I think that they're going to answer the call. Now, defensively, and I do see a comment from James Knox. I think he was shouting you out, Coach Smook.
Oh, yeah.
Coach
You got to
feed
Jace till he puke or tap
Or
out.
tap
Yes,
out.
sir.
Yeah.
He can do
No,
it.
I agree.
He can do it. He built for it.
I think so too. I think his experience is really what helps him. And then I see Ephraim Davis, Benson got a block verse. And that's gonna be a part of it too. I am really curious. So I'm curious, like what's going on, maybe that we don't know about on our side, as far as like the fan base or whatever. And of course, we may not know, but I definitely want to see more from him. I see Lucian, dude needs to stop running dive after dove. Dive after dove after dive. Can we please see more read options? I agree. Maybe we will. I don't know. I feel like for some reason, I really feel like our game against Tennessee, that was a very pivotal. It was a very pivotal moment, just that second half. To me, it did something. Not even just to the players, but maybe for the coaches and the personnel. I think it was a moment that we needed going into the bye week and then going into this game against LSU. So who knows? I think that we're going to see some good things. But I will say from the defensive side, the guys that I want to see step up, I know that Justin Jefferson, for example, now he's played in every game this season, but we haven't really heard his name much since our game against Mississippi State. So I would like to see more, as he gets out there. I want to see, more from him and along with Kendrick Blackshire. Now, he played well early in the season, but we haven't seen him since, Mississippi State as well. Now, it could be because of just the depth that we have, and that's a good thing. But I do think that maybe when we play Kentucky, for example, that would be a good game to put Kendrick out there, maybe in the second half, Justin Jefferson. So maybe we'll see more around that time from, those guys on the defensive side. Is there anyone that you could think of defensively that you think may need to step up or, maybe get prepared to step up?
The guy you just got done talking about, Kendrick Blackshire, I think he proved that his worth when the game that Lawson was out. And he was in that rotation. That was the last game we saw him play big snaps. But I think he was out there 2 or 3 like meaningful defensive snap this past game. Didn't really get involved because the defensive front was wrecking house at this point in time. But Blackshire definitely not step it up, but get ready to step it up in production because he's going to be used. I think with this LSU game presents an opportunity for us to really rotate and use inside backers based off the personnel that's lining up. Because I wouldn't mind seeing Blackshire and Marshall be a run stopping package, you know what I'm saying, at the inside, your 2 middle guys. And then in plus field playing coverage, get Lawson and Campbell out there. But you want some guys that's going to blow them holes up on the goal line and really clean up after the defensive line. That's one thing Marshall has done. Marshall very rarely gets lost in the backfield. He very rarely gets lost. He either blows up the wrong hole or he's going to, make a solid effort and at least, if not take the guy down, provide it to where teammates can, clean it up for him. So Blackshire on that side. Also, Kool-Aid McKinstry. Nobody else want to say it. I'm going to say it. I mean, we're saying it now. I want to see Kool-Aid step up like no other. I haven't seen Kool-Aid from last year yet. And yes, he's made some plays, but I think the only time I seen Kool-Aid like really give 100% through a whole play was the play where he should have had the pick Like he was really out of phase in that play, and the recovery speed that I highlighted about him and his ability to recover was just so immaculate on that play. He could have picked that off, and it probably would have went for 6 because it was the line. It was only the offensive lineman and the quarterback on that side of the field. Unless Quinshawn Judkins was gonna come from the other side and hawk him down, which I could see happening with Kool-Aid, but we ain't gonna talk about that. But yeah, defensively, those two guys, and I want to see Justin and Boyd continue to step up. That was so refreshing to see my boy out there throwing his body. I mean, just throwing his body in the hole and creating chaos and then finishing the play with a sack. That was awesome.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm proud of our guys, man. I mean, the defense, like honestly, I haven't seen our defense this dominant since maybe the 2020-ish, maybe when we had Mac Jones. It's been a minute. And I think that, like you said, Justin Boygby, it's good to see him. He's been consistent. Chris Braswell. I mean, we gotta say his name. He's been consistent as well. And kudos to him for trying to run down Squirrel Wright,
That was
against
crazy. That was crazy.
I mean, he almost had him actually.
Right.
I don't know. I was happy to see that. But to me, that just goes to show the heart that these players have. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, well, I know technically I shouldn't be the one down here, but you know what? I'm about to step. I'm going to be that one. I'm going to be that guy. So I'm proud of our guys. I know that they've taken a lot of heat, and they continue to, because of course there's always something negative that people want to say. But I think, overall to see, and what's funny is that I think we were talking about this earlier, how you see a lot more people now talking about Bama like, oh, should people be scared? I'm like, you should have been scared. I mean, but that's the thing. In a time of peace, you prepare for war, right? So when everyone's right, and when people are, being negative or whatever the case may be, see, that's when we use that time to get our hearts in it. We need to get everyone on the same page. They need to buy into it. But it all starts with the leadership, Coach Saban, Tommy Rees, Kevin Steele. I think the thing about it is that Kevin Steele, he kind of had it on lock early on, where, the defensive guys, they had already bought into it, early into the season. I think Tommy Rees, it was kind of a work in progress, but I think that we're almost there. I feel like we're almost there. I do see a comment from B Jammin. Just seems like Kool-Aid is just riding Bama's shirt tail for a chance at the pros. He just hasn't shown me any fire. Yeah, I'm not really sure. And I get it. I get it, man, bro. I get it. Like when you're on your way to the draft, I understand, but at the same time, you don't let your foot off the gas. Like
I don't even think it's that. I think he's Kool-Aid is finally experiencing a sophomore slump type of game stretch. Y'all got to remember, Kool-Aid didn't start his freshman year. He just played in 3 of the biggest games in the season and went out there and made mistakes. And I mean, he played early in the season against, I believe it was Mercer that first season, his freshman year. But Kool-Aid was thrown into the fire. He stepped up. I mean, he showed the reason why he's getting so much hype because of how much improvement we saw from the first 3 starts to season 2. And there were spots in that time of the year where, they were just trying him because they didn't know that he was capable. They weren't considering the fact he was a true freshman. But now they see that he's capable. So coordinators are picking spots with Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid's got to be 100% every play, not just in third and passing or when he knows, and then the celebrations, it got to, like, if you're going to be celebrating as much as you celebrate Kool-Aid, I need you to be leading that defensive group like Burton is leading that wide receiver group. I love what Burton's doing. His fire brings energy. Kool-Aid be doing the little strap thing. He the only one celebrating because everybody else see, bro, you almost got beat. Like, what are you doing? But then he'll turn around and make a big play and really spike this team up. So Kool-Aid is definitely going to, I'm not going to say he's checked out or he doesn't have no fire. I think Kool-Aid is at that, he's in the sophomore slump. He's not getting the early chances to make big plays. He's being he's over analyzing the punt returns and when to field the punt. Like, relax and play football again, son. And the moment, usually after bye weeks, that's when you see guys, punt return guys, secondary guys, that's when you really see them take off because things slow down after the bye week. So hopefully we can get that.
Look, I see this comment from Van. Can't let it go to your head. I got drafted in my career mode in Madden. Y'all don't see me run around. Look. That's a good one. That is a good one. No, but okay. So then one thing that I want to call out, and I think it's a celebratory moment for us, honestly, is the fact that we're back in the top 10. Now, me personally, I feel like we could have been back in the top 10 a week ago. But, I think that the fact that we're back in the top 10, I mean, I felt even after we lost to Texas, I still felt like there was a chance for us to move back into the top 4, and I still do. So we're number 9 now. And I do find it to be very ironic that around the same time in the season, in 2015, it was almost the exact same scenario. Now, of course, it's a different team, a different, style of play. But I think that just kind of, to me, it should at least give the fans some hope that all is not lost. But I do think that if we want to be in the discussion for the playoffs, we can't just win games. We have to dominate. And I know that, even Coach Saban a few years ago when we played Arkansas, won by 1 point, like he went completely off because people felt like, okay, well, y'all just beat them by 1 point. But my thing is that, those style points, it does matter. And I think that's why the way that we beat Tennessee, that's why it stood out so much. And even the way that we play, but I think that the style points and I think we won by like 14 points against Tennessee. So to me, it spoke volumes. And I think that's one of the reasons, why we're back in the top 10. Now, I think what's going to be interesting though, Coach Smook, is this thing that's going on with, this whole investigation with Michigan. And I know that we're not going to go into too much detail there, but I'd be curious because after we beat Tennessee, I saw a lot more so of articles basically asking like, oh, well, should Michigan be number 1 instead of Georgia? And so now with this entire ordeal going on with the, the investigation and such, and now the video evidence, I'm just curious like how that's going to play out as far as like their playoff contention. Because to me, this is a pretty big deal. But what do you think about us being back in the top 10? Do you personally feel like we still have a chance to make it in the top 4?
Oh yeah, we went out. We're getting in like that. You don't deny one loss SEC champ when your former national championship is possibly going to represent the other division of that same conference. If we win out and beat them in the SEC championship, we're in there. But I don't want to more so focus on what we have to do. I see a lot of teams losing possibly this week. Possibly,
Exactly.
I see Georgia being tested finally, for at least 3 quarters. I feel like this Florida team is just not clicking. Florida, if we had to be like have a great value version of us this season in the SEC, I think Florida would be the great value version. They had an unproven quarterback. They got elite talent at running back. They have, unproven talent on their offensive line, but they suffered some injuries this season too on the offensive line. And now they're just now getting it back together. They're getting back healthy at the wide receiver position. And their defense is finally starting to play defense. Like I mean, I've never seen a Florida defense play so bad, like I did at the beginning of the season. So I think it's coming together for them. Neutral site game. They have a good chance to upset Georgia. But Michigan and Ohio State have to see each other.
Yeah.
And Michigan still has to see Penn State. Michigan still has to see Purdue. Like people are still sleeping on Purdue. Purdue always gives Michigan problems. Michigan still has to see Toledo and Maryland.
Yeah.
And I think they go to Maryland. So I mean, it can get funky for Michigan quick. And we know Jim Harbaugh doesn't handle controversy very well. He likes media, but he don't handle controversy very well. He might jam it up, 2 out of the 4 of those games. And then, I mean, you got teams like Oklahoma, they could still slip up against OSU, Kansas. They got teams, Texas, they still got, we want them to win out. But if they lose again, that helps us in the sense that we're handling our schedule and our ranked opponents, our conference. So it's just a lot of factors that just favor us if all we got to do is win. Win and we're in. That's the name of the game. Easy, simple as that. We don't need to think about anything else. Just win and we're in there.
Yeah. Hey, that's gonna be our slogan for the remainder of the season, right? I mean, win and we in. I mean, that's
win
it.
And we in.
I mean, that's it. Like, what else is there to say? Now, you mentioned a few teams. So when we look at, kind of like in a foresight perspective, when we look at the teams that are ranked higher than us. So this weekend, and actually, let me catch this comment before.
Oh,
so we have Van. I'm going to schedule Michigan when I take over at Bishop's. Van on the road tonight, y'all.
We're going to ban. No, I'm just playing. That's my bro, man. Hey, it's glad to see that our defensive coordinator for Friday night revamp previews is out of jail, y'all. He did them little 28 hours hard time, so
not
much
the
love.
28. No,
Still
look,
in that Philip Palmer statue.
man, right, exactly. No, for this weekend, I'm look, so we have our bye week, but I think some of the key games, key matchups this weekend. So you got Oklahoma at Kansas. Kansas is 5 and
Hmm.
2. That's gonna be a good game. Now it's an earlier game, but I think that's gonna be a good game. I think that, you have a team like Oklahoma, they're still pretty young. I think that now their win over Texas, I was all for it, and so I was proud to see that. But like you said, they still have Oklahoma State, and I think this game against Kansas this weekend is going to be a big one. I think it's going to be bigger
Hmm.
than what we think, but I do think that that's going to be dependent on what Oklahoma we see come out there. So I would keep my eyes on that one. Of course, the Georgia at Florida. Florida has only lost 2 games. I think they lost to Utah early on, and then of course they lost at Kentucky. So to me, Florida has something to prove. And Georgia's tight end Brock Bowers, he's still out on his, I think it was a high ankle sprain. And so to be honest, I don't think that we're going to see Brock Bowers play again until maybe their game against Ole Miss or even Tennessee, maybe like second or third week, maybe third week of November time frame. And so I think that if Florida, if their coaches do what they need to do, if they're smart about it, because we do need to kind of shake up the East a little bit. I think Florida, they're no longer ranked. Tennessee, they're like ranked pretty low now, but I would like to see one of those teams beat Georgia. I would like to see that. They're not the Georgia that they were last year, and that's okay because you have guys that go to the draft, guys that get injured.
Hmm.
But I definitely think that hype that's been around them this entire season, it's been unwarranted. It's been unjustified, and I think that if Florida does what they need to do, they're going to expose some of that. So I think with Brock Bowers out, we could see Florida really show up. Like I said, I think Florida has something to prove, and I think that going forward for Georgia, I think they still have Missouri. They still have Ole Miss, so they have some key games.
They have those three teams you just named back to
Mhm.
back, and those are
Exactly. Exactly. So that's gonna be that's gonna be interesting to see how that play out. Now, I did want to call out Texas. So BYU is playing at Texas this weekend, and now BYU they're 5 and 2. Texas, of course, is 6 and 1 after their loss against Oklahoma. But one reason why this is important is because Steve Sarkisian said this week that their starting quarterback Quinn Ewers, he's not going to play this weekend. He had gotten
Mhm.
injured last week against Houston. I think it was a shoulder injury. So he mentioned that
AC
he's not
sprain.
going to. Yeah. And so I think that this is going to be huge because I don't recall Texas backup quarterback getting a lot of reps out there. And so I would be curious to see how this play out. I know it's BYU, but like I said, they only lost 2 games. So I think that this is going to be interesting. I think we could possibly see Texas take their second loss. I don't know. But one
Mm.
thing to note about BYU is that, they forced 5 turnovers in their game against Texas Tech. Now, Texas
Mhm.
Tech is not, a team that we talk about a lot, but I still think that that's worth, mentioning at least. But they also beat Cincinnati, Arkansas, so I think that, that's gonna be a good one to watch. And if you don't watch, just keep your eyes on it because I definitely think that BYU they have a chance. I
Yeah.
wouldn't bet any money on it, but I think that they have a chance, right?
Yeah, and I agree with you, but I think the thing that saves Texas against BYU is Steve Sarkisian with a
Yeah.
quarterback like Malik Murphy. Oh my
Yeah.
God. We might not see Quinn Ewers back on the field even after he's good to go. They might hold him an extra week
True.
just to give Malik Murphy a
Link.
solid 4 or 5 good games of
Mhm.
running the offense. And if Texas was to make the playoffs or even get to the conference championship, I think Ewers comes in and kind of leads that charge. But that Malik Murphy under Sarkisian, that can be dangerous for the rest of the country. And really, honestly, what was being said at coming out of the camps at the message boards and stuff, um, Archie is really becoming
Mhm.
more adept to this offense and learning a lot from Sarkisian. Me
Okay.
personally, I think he's overrated. Not
Yeah.
anything against him. It's just I saw the film, and
Yeah.
I don't see you doing that in the SEC. I don't care what offensive line you're behind.
Yeah.
Come on, bro. You're not stiff arming
Yeah.
Kendrick Blackshire or whatever other linebackers at Kentucky, Georgia, wherever. So, but Malik Murphy, he presents a issue kind of like Joe Milton does. He's a freakish athlete at quarterback, and when he gets loose, when that arm gets warmed up, it's hard to stop him. And Sarkisian is a mastermind at designing plays around his quarterback. He's a mastermind and not taking long to do it. He's a master at adjustment. So, Yeah, man. I think I want to highlight another matchup that we ain't talking about either.
With the
That's
Oregon,
coming up. Yeah.
Oregon at Utah. Yeah. That's going to be a big one. And that's a road game for Oregon too. Utah has only lost one game. So, and they're the team that
Their
beat Florida.
defense, their defense is legit. That Utah
Yeah.
defense could compete in any conference right now. You
Yeah.
could take that
Yeah.
Utah. If you took that Utah defense and put it on Tennessee, we probably don't win that game after starting off
Mm-mm.
like we did. Because that
Mm-mm.
Utah defense is scrappy, but they athletic too in the secondary. They don't have a lot of marquee guys, but they
Mhm.
got some guys in the secondary. A lot of pass breakups, a lot of physicality running down the help on the run game. I mean, their linebackers are disciplined. They're not great. They have a defensive front. They got a guy, defensive tackle, I want to believe. He either plays end or tackle. He's
Mhm.
solid too. So Utah, if I had to go and see a team like crap the bed this weekend and lose uncharacteristically, it would be Oregon against Utah because they're playing in Utah.
In Utah, yeah, that's going to be a big one. Yeah, and they're both in the top 15. I think Oregon is 8, Utah is 13. I think, and this is going to be a good test for Bo Nix. I mean, we've been hearing a lot of people talk about him, and he's been doing really well. But I
Yeah.
just, like you said, Utah's defense, is just, and their first loss was, again, the only loss was against Florida. I think that was their first game, and so maybe it's a matter of them just kind of getting adjusted and just kind of finding their identity. So that's going to be a big game. But there's another one. We have Ohio State at Wisconsin. Now, anything could hey, that's the prime time. Anything could happen. Anything
Yeah.
could happen,
I'm laughing
I
because
don't
a
know.
lot of people sleep on Wisconsin in that
They
traditional
do.
defense.
They do. They do. I think and really when you think about Ohio State, so they have the guy, I think Harrison. I remember he played really well against Georgia last year. I think it was in one of the playoff games. And he
Uh-huh.
is really good, but I remember their game last week. I think it was last week. He had a pretty slow start, their game against
Mhm.
Penn State. And so I don't know, man. I feel like, a lot of times, even looking at the Ohio States and Indianas or Ohio State and, certain teams that you don't necessarily expect to beat them. Well, we have to remember too that when you're coming off of a huge game like the Texas Oklahoma game, that following week it may be a smaller team that you're playing, but these guys will be burnt out, So I think
Yep.
maybe, yeah, like the way that, look at a team like Alabama, the way that we train, the way that we practice, it's just as mental as it is physical. And I think that that's a part that people, kind of forget about too, because you can lift all the weights in the world. We got these huge guys on our O-line, but it's the mental strength too that you need. And so I think that that's something that we see with Alabama that maybe certain, other teams may not have, but even the caliber of players as well. So I just think that, because we took that loss as early as we did against Texas, it didn't necessarily mess us up. I think if anything, it just showed us, the areas that we needed to work on. I think we're in a good position now, especially considering that the College Football Playoff Committee, they're going to release their first rankings on the 31st of this month. So I think between now and then our next game against LSU, we'll kind of see where their heads are at as far as the committee. Hopefully, they do a little better than the ones last year. I mean, I still kind of feel some type of way. But I'm excited to see what happens. I think that even beyond this weekend, there's still more key games. Like I mentioned, Michigan has a bye week this weekend, and I think it's probably good for them because they've been in the media for all the wrong reasons lately. But I think that I think it's gonna work, in our favor. I just, I really hope that the fans, like you said, you mentioned early, in the game against Tennessee, the impact that the fans had who were at the game, and my thing is that we need to keep that same energy, even for away games, how we show up on social media, not bashing the players, not, doing all that. We need to be that kind of like that voice in the background, pushing them further, because at the end of the day, we're not the ones on the field. We're not the ones that's having to go through these workouts and, all this stuff that they have to go through. So I'm excited to see where we land. I do see Justin, he mentioned that Utah's coach, Kyle Whittingham, he is the most underrated coach. He does the most with the least amount of talent. And that's true.
Oh yeah.
That's true. That's true. So I'm
But that's the
excited.
thing. Them Utah guys, man, they go and get sneaky athletes like that, don't get the
Yeah.
high ratings, and they just get guys that buy in. They buy into whatever, and Whittingham is just like a perfect fit for that culture,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I like Utah. I like watching them. I enjoyed them beating Florida. I will say that.
Yeah. I
I
did
usually
too.
cheer for SEC teams when they
Yeah.
go out of conference, but no, I enjoyed that
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. I think that they're gonna play to win. I think Oregon could
Mhm.
potentially get out coached in this game, because I think it may mean a little more for Utah.
Right.
Also. Yeah. No, this is gonna be good. So then, what I really want to do, I'm gonna do this for next week's show. I'm gonna break down what I see with LSU because I think there are certain things that are worth mentioning in terms of their linebackers, their secondary, at least
Mhm.
from my perspective, what I've seen so far. So I'm excited about that because I really want to take a deeper look into that and just really see like Jaden Daniels. Look, we played against him last year, so it's not like we're not familiar with his style of play. Now, with Brian Kelly, I do think that there's going to be another factor involved. Like I said, with Tommy Rees and Brian Kelly, they played together up there in or coached together at Notre Dame. But I think, Brian Kelly is going to try to throw some creativity in there, try to throw us off a little bit. But I don't think that they've truly played a defense like our defense today. That second half, bruh, they haven't played a defense like ours. Like,
All right. So this is the stat that was thrown at me in another show's chat. The highest rated defense that LSU has played this season was, I think, 49th in the top. I mean, they were the number 49. I think Alabama is number 24 right now. No,
That's
I don't even
it.
think we that. I don't think we that hot, that low no more. I think we actually moved up
That's
after
what I
this
was going. I mean,
game.
because I was going to say we need to contact whoever is
Right.
scoring them
I
because
think,
that's not right. Because who they
and
going to
I
put
was
in front of us?
I mean, but as far as statistically, we were definitely in the top 20. LSU has yet to play a top 20 defense, and the
Yeah.
defense, even Florida State doesn't have a top 20 ranked defense. They don't have a top 25 ranked defense.
They
They
don't.
don't have a top. They don't have a top 30 ranked defense. So if Florida State was able to hold, and mind you, that was the first game of the season. Things have
Yeah.
changed miraculously, but to think that a Florida State team who's that green and that performing not dominant, they're not dominating their conference, but they're decent. I think we're talent wise more equipped, and on the coordinator side, Kevin Steele is a genius when it comes to defending mobile quarterbacks. I mean, it's just the name of the game. If you could shut down the mobile quarterback and force them to read downfield, but also can get pressure with 3, 4, send 5, and there's no resistance, that's a good thing to have at your disposal. And Kevin Steele is not going to hesitate to pull those cards, man. And he not waiting for somebody else to break the spades. He gonna break them off rip if he got it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Man,
he not
you know how
waiting for it.
you pull that card and you slap it on the table.
You know what I'm saying? I used to hold them on my forehead, stick it to my forehead.
Yeah,
with a big joker. You know I got a big forehead. Just slap them on, go there.
That is hilarious. Hey, we got Van again. He said, "What's our defense rated on Friday nights, Coach Smoot?"
What he say?
What's our defense rated on Friday nights?
Our defense rated on Friday nights. Oh, I ain't gonna say it. This is a different show, man. I gotta be good. We got Sis on the show, man. He be trying to have me act up. But
You
it's
do,
rated
man, 'cause
defense.
you know you will.
Look, rated defense. That's how I'm gonna say it for the show. Rated defense.
Right, exactly. It's no, look, this has been good conversation. I think we're echoing a lot of what we're hearing in these streets, but you and I, like the way that we break down the game, it to me, and I want to dive deeper next week for sure. But I think that
it was hard not to tonight.
Look, but it was right. Like I was trying to, just stay the course. Don't really go into it because it's certain things that I'm seeing with LSU, and I don't necessarily know if it's been like pointed out or called out. You would hope that we have analysts or someone, in the coach's ear that's kind of, let them know like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is kind of like their weak point. So that's something that I definitely want to get into next week. So y'all be sure to join. But I did want to call out, I do see a comment from James Knox. She trust the process, accept the results, and enjoy the 2023 Crimson Tide ride for what it is. Look, that's all, because that's all you can do, right? Like you either riding or you about to jump off, or we just gonna push you off, like, because this is what we do at this point. I mean, at this point, you ain't on both sides. Like you either with Bama or you're not. But I did want to mention, we have the Teague's Take tonight with George Teague. So that's coming up in about another hour with Bo Scarborough. So y'all have to be on tonight. Be sure to join. It'll be at 8:15 Central time. So be sure to join. It's going to be right here on the Bama Standard. So be sure to show some love to Bo and to George, and I'm sure they'll appreciate it. I did hear that Bo's Eagles, he had his event on the quad this past weekend where he was selling his signed shirts. And I heard that it went really well. So I'm proud of him, and hopefully he does it again because I still need to get my shirt. But yeah, it sounds like he sold out. So that's awesome. She's pushing people off. She's getting look, all y'all gotta do is give me extra time and I'm gonna get ratchet.
Hey, y'all already know, man. I'm riding with my sis, man. I was in the chat the other night. They was trying to come for sis. I was like, y'all better, hey, that's my sister, man. Look,
they can't
Lucia
come
was
for me
trying to
unless
come.
I send for them. They can't come for me unless I send for them. So
Lucia said, yeah, I'm gonna have to watch her because she kind of feisty. I'm gonna have to watch her. I gotta bring my A game talking to her. I said, yeah, bro, she know what she's talking about.
I mean, but how can you not be though? Like, it's just, I think when you have a standard, and I always say this, like, we set the standard. All these other teams that people are talking about, they're following our standard. Georgia wouldn't be Georgia without Kirby Smart and Cochran. And it just is what it is. It is what it is. Like, we just got to be real. They hate when we say it, but I'm gonna keep saying it.
It's
That just
true.
is what it is.
If Kirby was gonna be what Kirby was gonna be, he could have graduated and went straight to Georgia and coached under Dooley and Rick and all those guys that was there. But he chose to bring his butt to Coach Saban. He linked up to Coach Saban at the hip for those years he was at Bama, and you could see it. It's just like it almost makes us mad as Bama fans that it looks like Alabama's in Athens right now. It looks like Athens, Alabama right now over there, the past 2 seasons. But now we got a new identity. And this new identity looks a lot more, especially on the offensive side. This offense is going to end up being explosive. And I wouldn't be surprised if it happens against LSU. And I'm going to break it down next week in the show and tell y'all why. But I saw some things against Tennessee, and I saw some things that all LSU does consistently that they done against Ole Miss and Florida State. They better not give Jalen Milroe that many deep looks. They better not. It's going to get ugly. They better not.
They better not, man. Look, yeah, like you said, we have a new identity. I think it's going to be something that, because at the end of the day, if we're real, Sarkisian made Texas. I mean, it just is what it is. So these guys are coming from under Saban, and you leave the standard, you try to go create a new one, but basically you're our little brother. So that's okay. Like, we'll let them kind of have their moments. But this is going to be a good weekend, I think, to kind of watch what the teams, what they do. We're gonna be sliding back up in that top 10, and I just don't see anything else happening. But I think we are at time. I was kind of looking at some of the comments in the live chat. I love to see it.
Me too.
Yeah, y'all gotta like that thing.
Take the last few minutes to start chopping it up with the people.
I know.
I see. Look, y'all, don't forget to share this when y'all come in, man. I be on Twitter. I share it, and I see a lot of y'all that follow me on Twitter in here. I appreciate y'all pulling up and supporting Cici and the Crimson Dynasty and what we're doing over here on the Bama Standard, guys. But let's continue to share it. People are waiting to hear, takes like what she brings. They waiting to hear a little bit more elegance and a little less bass on some of these takes. It feels good to have that, that female feel coming from it. It's a little comfort behind it. But then when you get crazy, she cut you. So I'm loving it, man. I'm loving being a guest on the show, and just the different dynamics we're bringing to this network as a whole is just something special to be a part of. So, man, look, Van, I'm not reading no more comments from Van.
No, Van
be trying to get me in trouble. Look, Van be he said, I'm gonna need to go to coach rehab.
After the jail stint. Yeah, okay. No, look, it's been good. Like I said, I appreciate all the viewers. Even if you don't comment, the fact that you're watching, we appreciate it. It's all love. I have love for the game more than anything. So, of course, I'm biased to Alabama, but it's just the love of the game. And look, shout out to the Eagles. Okay. Yes. And the Dolphins this week. Like, it was so good to see all our Bama guys out there. Like, honestly, I was watching the game because of them. That was it.
That's it. And it was good quality football. And I mean, but you know what I will say, and this is off topic, but I will say the NFL has been a lot more quality football at the beginning of this season than it has been in so long. And I don't like the NFL between week 1 and week 8. I usually just kind of tap in and show up, but it's been great. Cici, I do want to highlight this also. This week we will not have a revamped pregame preview, but this Saturday I will be hosting in Discord, and you can come to my Twitter, follow me on Twitter or my Facebook, and I'll post a Discord link. We'll be doing a live game day chat where we're kind of just coming together. It won't be on YouTube. It'll be in a relaxed environment. You can come in your pajamas, Only thing is you got to be on camera so you could be on the stream, and we're going to get clips and get takes and just talk football. You could be in and out the room all day, but it's just one of those things you just pull up and vibe and just talk football as an Alabama fan, because we're in the off week. We get to talk trash about everybody else. Like everybody else be watching our games. We finally get to watch everybody else. So yeah, if y'all want to do that, that's something we're going to be doing. Since we can't do the live game preview. So be looking out for that information, guys.
And one other announcement too, the Bama Standard is going to air this Sunday at a special time at 5 p.m. to preview LSU. So we may have some special guests. So y'all be on the lookout, and make sure that you turn the notifications on, those who are subscribed to the Bama Standard. If you're not subscribed, I don't know why. Make sure you subscribe tonight, and be sure to just go through and like and comment on some of the videos, because we got some good content out there. So look, I'm proud of all of us. I'm glad to have you on, Coach Smoot. I know that a lot of the viewers already, following you online, but if some of them are not, how can they find you?
At Coach Smoot on every platform, everybody. It's one of those things where you just go and type Coach Smoot. If you go to Kick and try to find me, you might see the page I was about to make for my glasses. I made a page for my glasses because I've been getting Stephen Smith, references about how thick my glasses is. But I don't think my glasses nowhere near that thick. Some of y'all watch both shows. Me and Bro been debating about it since we met. I told him I'm part of the TGC thick glasses crew. So, but I don't think I'm on that level. So when you go to Kick, try to find, look, you blind too, sis?
No, I ain't blind. No.
Oh, I was about to say, look, we tight.
No, I do have glasses. I just like wear contacts, but I know that look, we're pushing past this hour. I could go all night, honestly. But
Roll Tide, y'all know where to find me. Be looking out for y'all.
Be sure to follow me as well. At beauty_of_intelligence. I'm primarily on Instagram. So you'll find me there. And I do see Bama Standard. Smoot got the Lens Crafters NIL like Stephen at Will.
Can we put middle finger emojis in the chat?
You could. Hey, look, you can hit your censor button too. Let him know how you really feel.
I want that money though. I wouldn't mind that check. If they try to pay you, boy, I'm with it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. We might have another sponsor or two. So I really appreciate, y'all support. Thanks for showing love, and thanks for engaging in the comments. Look, be sure to come back next Wednesday. We're breaking it down. I tried to just maintain tonight and not really go into too much depth. Yeah, it was hard. It was hard. But next week we're gonna light it up, and look, we're gonna smoke them because we already got them. So just go ahead and Go ahead and get prepared. No, but I hope y'all have a blessed night. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video so people can watch the replay. And be sure to tune in next Wednesday, same place, same time. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.